watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
The rise of online car shopping has presented opportunities, but also challenges for dealers, from the convenience of online showrooms to marketing. Today, we are joined by Matt VanDyke, who's the president of Shift Digital and former CEO of FordDirect. You may know him from there as well, to walk us through what's working for dealers online and what isn't, as well as to dive into the future of automotive marketing a little bit here. Matt, thank you so much for joining us here on CBT News.
It's my pleasure, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So Shift, in fact, recently published a study, Winning Strategies for Converting Shoppers to Buyers, to set the stage. What is the scope of the study?
Sure. Yeah, we support about 3/4 of the North American OEMs and their dealer networks in terms of dealer websites, advertising, independent reporting, and analytics and such.
Wow.
And it's been a tumultuous few years, as we all know. And what we started to study, taking data from all of last calendar year and the first 6 months of this year, was really what's happening with customer behavior. Because the question we were getting from so many clients was, hey, my website traffic is up 20%, but my leads are down 20%. And obviously sales are still up. So what's happening?
Yeah.
So we looked at the data across that network of websites that we support, which is almost 16,000 dealer websites in the US,
My
and
God.
all the leads that we process. And we really just crunched the numbers, and we were looking to share the insights we got from that.
So what were some of the key findings? What factors are most likely to drive an online sale?
Really, the biggest thing we saw in terms of the breakdown from conversion of the site traffic into leads was, I think, kind of a factor of what has happened in the last year and a half. And the fact that dealers really need to begin to adjust to the current monthly market conditions. What I mean by that is there were still lots and lots of dealers who had confusing call to actions on the website. So if you land on a vehicle detail page, customers are overwhelmed with the choices that they have. The way dealer websites have grown and all the plug-in tools like digital retailing and e-commerce options, it's just had people add clickable link after clickable link to all the next steps that a customer can take. And we would see on average, some dealers have 9 or 10 different choices that a customer can make once they land on a piece of inventory. And it's about getting back to that discipline of simplifying the experience. That's one thing. Another thing is we really see a fall off is obviously impacted by what's happened with inventory.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic and then the subsequent chip shortage, and it still impacts some brands today, there was a huge rush to putting new calls to action on websites like check availability. And what dealers were responding to is the fact that customers didn't know if that vehicle was actually in inventory, if they could get it. And so what we found is now that most customers and most brands see that there is inventory available just by bouncing around to other websites.
Yeah.
It's a turnoff when you say that. If they know that there's a 60-day supply or a 90-day supply of trucks, they don't want to check availability. They want to get into, what's my price, what's my payment, things like that.
Yeah, that happened quick. I mean,
it really did.
Yeah.
And it's also not a one size fits all for each brand, right?
Yeah.
As we know within the US industry, there are OEMs that are completely fully stocked and aggressively trying to merchandise. And there's still those that are in a short selling position. So you do have to obviously pay attention to look out on your lot, understand your digital storefront, and customize your customer experience for that. But those are a couple of the high level things.
Sure. Were any of the takeaways EV related in terms of how many people are looking for EVs online?
Yeah, I think for the sake of this study, it was really broad based and we were looking at everything. But increasingly, especially in the last 90 days, those are the conversations we're having with our clients because we see it, right? The average inventory in the industry is back to 60 days. The average EV inventory is 90 or 100 days. There is definitely a difference between the inventory levels and the amount of time it takes for a customer to convert on the EV side. And I think that's a lot of things. There's still customer uncertainty about understanding charging. There's many times confusion about understanding a eligibility for tax credits, and that can be different whether it's leasing or whether
Sure.
it's purchase. There's just a host of challenges on EV, and I think
Yeah.
we're in the early stages of that shakeout.
Yeah, it is very intimidating to the average consumer out there. I think that for all of the reasons that you just mentioned, when it comes to time for shopping for a new car, whether or not they go EV, there are so many different factors to consider, and sometimes it's just safer for a lot of consumers to just go, let me do what I know. Let me do what my last 10 cars were an ICE vehicle. I'm just going to buy an ICE vehicle. I'll wait till the next go around. At least some of the people that in my small circle have shared with me. Now I've got good friends that have also purchased EVs, but a much larger number that said, "No, I'm not there yet. It's just easier to go out and buy an ICE engine and
Yeah,
not be
no,
worried
no
about
question. I think the old adage is, what's my monthly payment and how much do I have to put down to take this car home today? It's, well, what's my monthly payment and how much do I have to put down? How do I get a home charging system? Where do I charge it if I'm not
What's
at
my
home?
range?"
Tell me my range.
Right,
And
right.
what happens if it's cold or hot?
That's right. And
There's
what
a
if
lot
I'm in an
more.
apartment complex and I can't have a home charging station? I've got to be looking for a charger that's available at my apartment complex or townhome or whatever. So there's a lot of things we still got to work out before we find ourselves in an all EV environment, right?
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah.
And I think obviously it's coming at us. It's going to continue to come at us, following, kind of current statements. There's definitely those who are walking back from, the prognostication that 30% or 35% of the industry by 2030. But certainly it's growing and it continues to be an increasing share of the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Let me backtrack a little bit. Why do you think developing leads is such a challenge for dealers today?
Well, I think a number of things. I think what we have seen in the last 2 years is a difference between what customer perception of trust at the dealerships is and what a dealership's own perception. And that's a gap that's widening. Capital One puts out an annual study in the first quarter that measures that. And 82% of dealers think that they're, trustworthy and transparent. And, far less than 0.5% of 50% of customers actually feel that way. So I think one of the things that's happened is you have that, and then you have this dynamic environment where pricing went at MSRP or above, and that increased the divide. So combine that with lack of inventory, customers trying to figure out if I can even get a vehicle, is it on your lot or is it just empty pavement out there? And how much is the added dealer markup? It's made that gulf bigger. So all of those factors, along with economic headwinds of rising interest rates, the number of weeks of income it takes to buy a new car at record all-time highs,
Yeah.
it makes this business more challenging. All that said, we're on pace for a fantastic year with double-digit growth. But I think once everybody's fully stocked and once we're through this news cycle, it'll be kind of back to the car business again
Yeah.
with some new dynamics.
Yeah. How do you see the future of the car shopping evolve with some of the headwinds that you just mentioned?
Well, the great news is there's never been a better range of products on the market
Yeah.
for customers to choose from. We also saw, lots of customers maybe even change their perception of pre-pandemic, I don't need a car versus no, I'm going to always have my own public or own transportation.
Yeah.
There's things like that. So I don't think there's any question that, vehicle ownership is going to be strong and important. I think one of the other things that's changed just in the last couple of years is just a few years ago, with the exception of like Carvana and maybe a couple others, there was not a good user experience to actually shop for and buy a car online.
I know.
And
I know.
the digital retailing providers, and there's easily a half dozen of them that offer a world-class customer experience. For those customers who want it, they offer really great options for dealers to create part of the journey through their digital storefront. And I think one of the rushes that was a little bit of a misnomer at the beginning of the pandemic is that everybody's just going to start transacting online. And the reality is, even today, it's low single-digit percentages.
Right.
But what you do want to do is do your credit app online, get to price and payment online, take away all these steps so that you don't have to spend 3 hours in this dealership and another hour in F&I.
That's right.
And shorten that process so that it's easier, it's more enjoyable, and you can get into the store get educated on the vehicle and have more of that,
Sure.
Genius Bar experience and things like that. So I
Yeah,
think
and
those are a couple of the factors.
sure. And we hear the terms frictionless experience and also seamless in the sense that if you do all of those things online, the last thing you want to hear when you walk into the showroom is, oh, what is your name? Oh, what kind of car were you looking at? Oh, what was your, you're like, oh my gosh,
100%.
I just spent 2 hours keep trying to complete, this transaction as much as I can so that we didn't go through this, and then you'll hear salespeople say, oh, it won't take long. It won't take long. Where do you work? What do you do? How much do you make? Oh my gosh, what are we doing that these systems are not speaking to one another? So when that Mr. or Mrs. customer walks in the door, hey, we've been waiting for you. We have your car ready. Let's go,
Jim, that's exactly it. And that's what's actually, I think, the next advent, now that technology has gotten better to make, frictionless shopping experience possible. What's got to happen is that technology solution has to be married with training and good in-dealership experience to take advantage of it. And what we see happening is large dealer groups are looking to adopt customer data platforms, systems that are pulling together what's happening with online shopping along with their CRM and DMS, so that when you walk into the store, Jim, thank you for your loyalty. We know you bought 4 vehicles from us, and we know this is what you've come to see today. It's ready. We're here. We know you're a lease customer.
That's right.
We know you're eligible for a private offer. That's where the system gets just better and better for dealers and brands.
Yeah. I just had this discussion with someone else earlier today, and I made the comment that why in retail automotive are we always seem to be late to this game, and out of the retail providers out there, whether it be Amazon or whether it be Best Buy or whatever, that have been doing this with their consumers now for so long. But in the automotive space, we're just now coming around to that personalization online that customer so desires, right?
And I think my response to that and the answer to that is Amazon didn't have it easy, right? They pioneered it.
Yeah.
They made it great, but they did it all with complete control of the ecosystem from beginning to end. And what's happened in automotive is the market is super fragmented, right? What this customer relationship management software that a dealer uses is not what Toyota or General Motors uses. Each dealer has a very specific system, and then all of those other systems are fragmented, right?
Yeah.
There's a brand website, there's a dealer website,
Yep.
there's a digital retailing tool, there's a chat tool. Each of those providers is getting a little keyhole of data. And what it's taking is companies building data platforms that pulls it all together and makes it actionable, so that if you're a dealer, you can actually take care of your customers better because you're harnessing the power of that, like Amazon.
Yeah.
But that's just something that's, the advent of that is now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's no question about it. Dealers need to wake up, especially as we see inventory starting to load back into dealerships, and we're seeing prices coming down. Obviously, dealers are now negotiating once again to win that customer over. And we all know one thing: it all starts online, right? I mean, I saw a survey recently that said 92% of the customers, they start online, and I'm like, that 8% is lying. They picked up and started that process.
Well, and 70% of that online is mobile, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing how much of it is, just through a phone.
There's no question about it. So even more important that dealers make sure that website that they feel so strong about and they love is available on all screens, right?
100%. I think one of the, dealers who are my friends, and they say, hey, what's kind of one of the first pieces of advice is, hey, when you're evaluating your website, do it on your phone. Because that's how 70%, 75% of your customers are going to do it. And you think you've got the greatest chat provider in the world, but as soon as you launch the website, customers trying to
that's right. You put them through like a course, that
and all
they
do is they click on close out the chat window because you've taken over your screen. It's things like that.
I know. I agree. I
make
agree.
A big difference. Yeah.
That's right. And so many dealers, and I, was in the auto industry for so many years, and dealers, friends of mine, they don't do that. They don't shop their own store, and it's funny because I agree. They'll ask me sometimes, what do you think? I said, shop your store, shop it online, shop it by phone, see what happens when you call the dealership. Don't call from your phone, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Dealer, because they already have your number all dialed in. But pick up your friend's phone and call, disguise your voice, and then ask about cars and see how long you're on hold see what they tell you over the phone. It'll really be an eye opener for you.
No, it's great advice.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, Matt VanDyke, president of Shift Digital and former CEO, as I mentioned, of FordDirect. This guy knows what it takes to get a dealership going in the right direction, especially online. So thank you so much for all of your insights today. I know that our dealer community get a lot out of it. So thanks. Love to have you back, do a follow-up, see how the year's going.
Thank you, Jim. Love to do it.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.